We know it's really hard to do when you're running around and you're tired and you've got lots of things on your mind.
Like
Creativity.
I am.
Being creative. Creative
Yes.
is create.
Being
It's one of those things where speed and creativity often don't work too favorably with one another. You know what I mean?
mm, mm,
You know, when
yeah. No,
it's that hurried element that that gets me. You know, where creativity has to take a back seat at that point, and it's really hard to access that, especially as a creative person. So I try not to be as hurried. And if you can't tell by listening to us right now, there's a hurried pace to me right now because of even though it's summer, like it's fall is coming, the latter part of the year is coming. So speed is starting to creep back in, and this is usually my time where I could be really like focused on creativity. But there's that weird, again, imbalance or friction that speed causes with creativity.
right. So, and it all basically comes back to time, right? And available
Hmm.
time, and structuring that time, deciding ahead of time what your day, what your hours are going to be shaped like, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. Um, uh, right now, I essentially have another full-time job, and have for the past 3 weeks, and will continue to for another 3 weeks. And that is at Circus,
Hmm.
which I talk about frequently on the podcast. Go listen to past episodes if you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Heck, go listen to past episodes that you've missed, if even if you do, because there's good important stuff there. But yeah, this time of year, beginning midsummer, I'm spending 30 plus hours, but closer to 40 hours every week at Circus. Um, and that is a lot on top of what I already have to do. And that work I do at Circus is demanding physical work. And I am often there until 10:30. And because of its demanding, fast-paced, high energy, high stakes nature, I find myself too pumped with adrenaline by the end of it
Yeah.
to easily, like, I can't just go home and hit the bed and fall asleep. And like, no, I toss and I turn, and I until my body is able to readjust to not being in full go mode. Um, and so what then happens is everything that I normally would have evenings to do or even late afternoons to do, I'm packing into what available time I do have. And yeah, when you have that sort of fullness of schedule and packedness of compactness of time, um, I would argue that yes, maybe you find it difficult to be creative in the ways that you wish,
Mm.
but I also would argue that in fact constraints breed creativity.
Yeah. It's interesting because as you were saying that, I knew where you were going to go because um the idea of Stephen Pressfield's foolscap method, for example, where he's like, look,
Mhm.
I only have this foolscap. My entire novel needs to be set in within this. If it doesn't fit in with it, then things need to be cut, right?
Yeah.
Or, that sort of thing. But the other thing is that we often don't take into account with this stuff. And we've talked about, again, pacing and being adaptable and all those. Again, I mean, you go through the catalog of our season 1 and season 2 of the PM Talk series. I don't know. I can't recall if we've mentioned the John Cleese talk before, where he says the two things you need to be truly creative are time and space, not one or the
Yes.
other. So
Yes.
we time, again, not having enough time fe- puts the rush on, right? Which can be
Mhm.
a constraint, right? Like
Mhm.
that could act
Mhm.
as a
Mhm.
constraint. But
Mhm.
if you have all the time in the world and very little space, that
Yes.
also can. So you've got to have this nuanced balance of both. And I mean, the argument that I'll have some people will say around that is, well, I mean, look at George R.R. Martin with his latest Game of Thrones book, right? He has all the time in the world to do it, and he's taking all the time in the world to complete it,
To do
right?
it.
But
Yeah.
it's so frustrating because people who want it are like, when is he going to get it done? When is he going to get it done? And the thing is that, by virtue of him taking so much time, by the time he actually gets it done, will it be as impactful? You know what I mean? Like, will it be?
Mhm.
So how many people will go, ugh, either say, well, it's about time, and read it and then go, this wasn't worth the wait, or
Mm.
uh
Mm.
do the same and go, oh my God, this is the best thing. No wonder why he took so long, right? Like, so again, there's the danger of not having any, I mean, he doesn't have any constraints. I mean,
Sure.
clearly,
Sure.
he has constraints when he writes, though. I've noticed. I mean, I remember reading where he said, like, and I might be wrong in this, but I remember him saying that, or an article saying that he had a computer where he soldered like the Ethernet cable end into it and removed the internet from the computer that he writes with. And I might be wrong. I'll do some research. If I'm wrong, I'll put that in the show notes. But
All right.
that's fine if you only use that computer for all the things. If you're using
Yes.
a computer in general, it's like, well, I can't use. I'm not gonna. It's like me with my Hemingwright typewriter thing here, right?
Right.
Like,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
it only is designed for writing. If I don't step up to it and write, guess what? Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right,
Right.
right.
Well, and so, in the case of someone like George R.R. Martin too, here's what I would say there. And that is, um, I'm betting, hoping that he doesn't really care,
Oh,
right?
he
Like
absolutely does not care.
that he doesn't care how long it takes. He doesn't care if he even. I mean, because let's be up there. He's no spring chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not. I would say in the best physical shape. And nothing against him. Just saying that I have no idea. Like, it's possible he could actually pass away before such a thing
Yep.
is done.
Yep.
And now it's being finished by some family member or something like Tolkien stuff, right?
Yes,
Um,
exactly. Or Fleming
uh,
stuff,
or
or any of
Fleming
that stuff.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right. And so, um, and ultimately, let's be honest. When the last time this happened, I could be getting this history wrong,
sure.
because I was not in the thick of the Games of Thrones stuff,
Mm-hmm.
my Lou. But wasn't there like some kind of controversy with deadline that he's faced before, because it was the sort of thing where, oh, how are they going to finish the
Yeah,
TV series when he hasn't even finished the books?
and that was the controversy. Yeah, so they finished.
Right.
Yeah, so they finished the last season of Game of Thrones with originally written material, I believe, instead of what was going to be written.
Waiting, what
Right, they
was,
could.
yes,
Yeah, and obviously the
right,
reason that happened is they needed closure.
yes,
Money was involved, of course.
yes, yeah,
So
of course, and yeah, they had a schedule that,
yeah.
once again, they had a schedule that they had to adhere to that didn't fit within George R.R. Martin's creativity space.
Can I ask you a question? Let's shift gears a little bit here, because I also wonder. I'm thinking about two things that oddly enough may keep people from being as creative as they can be. We talked about constraints, and how creativity can work really well with constraints, but also the battle between perfection and imperfection when it comes to this, right? So I
Mm,
have on my desk bunch of pencils. I'm a fountain pen guy, but I also have a bunch of pencils. And in that pencil jar, for a very specific reason, it's an old candle from Patty Wax that was from their library series, and it's the John Steinbeck version. And in
Okay.
the quote on the outside is from his book East of Eden. He goes, "And now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good."
Yes.
And I
Yes.
love that quote because what that says is, look, like, no matter, to me, it means no matter what you do, you're not going to be right for every single person, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't be. You can't be. So now that you know that, you can just do the thing, like be good.
Yeah.
Now that you're not focused on it, you can be good. And I think about the constraints of the self constraints that you put on yourself when you are, with that kind of attitude of I've got to get it just right. The concept of where people, and again, I'm being very general here and not a lot, maybe this could be a problem that's not as widespread, but where they don't flex their creative muscles as much because they're like, well, I'm not going to get it right, or
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, like, nothing I've ever seen that's been absolutely like groundbreaking to me when I've seen it, like art or anything. It takes me a while to, even at this age, to go, wow, this is probably something that we're seeing the final product, not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth iteration of it. What we are likely seeing is a more polished product, or a more polished thing than what was initially thought of, right? And
Yes.
so that perfection aspect. Now in circus, you can't, like the thing you're doing, you can't be, well, it's okay, so let's just go ahead. Like there's
Yeah.
certain things,
Well.
well, no, the safety aspect and stuff, but the actual
Um.
routines and stuff, you can that's where I think some of the creative, like,
Oh yeah.
can you go through
Definitely.
that with me?
Yeah. Sure. So. Yeah. And this is also germane to our discussion.
Sure.
I will give an example that will mean nothing necessarily to most real world folks,
Okay.
but I need to tell this short story in order for folks to understand the point I'm going to make. The other night we were rigging an apparatus. It doesn't matter. It was the wheel of steel. It's a big round thing that, or big. It's got two. Yeah, forget it. Doesn't
Cool,
matter.
cool name, rhymes.
Wheel of steel. Wheel of
Put,
steel.
put
Also,
something in, puts an
yeah.
image in your
Some
head. Mhm.
exactly. Sometimes referred to as the wheel of death. In any case, there is a specific apparatus that we use to tie that, to anchor it to the floor.
Mhm.
And you take a giant eye bolt, a 28 gauge eye bolt, and we have anchor points screw in the floor where you can screw that down to. And you take this basically the the thing that basically locks it into place, locks it down, pulls the slack out of the line and pulls it tight, and you connect it to this anchor point with a shackle, big shackle. Uh, we were under the gun.
Mhm.
We were having to move fast. We have approximately 2 minutes to set up this fairly complicated piece of apparatus.
Mm.
And I had the shackle on backwards. Um,
Okay.
Petey, who's the coach of this particular act and one of the foremost Wheel of Steel performers himself in the world, has been on, has been on America's Got Talent with that act, has been on, has supervised all around the globe, supervised Cirque du Soleil, and coached them doing the act. He came over and he take a look, and he looked at the shackle, and and like the moment he shined his flashlight on it, I saw the problem. I was like, oh wait, I'll turn around. And he just shrugged and he goes, "It's a shackle," and walked away. Sometimes, yes, safety is and precision and all of those things are important, but more important is knowing when they're not important.
Yeah, the level of tolerance that's there.
The level of tolerance that is there.
Yeah.
And he knew the difference between that shackle facing basically being tied into the pin or tied into the to the tie was negligible. There really was no difference safety-wise. It wasn't going to cause a safety problem. It wasn't going to fail. That it would still be able to maintain the pull strength needed to tie and keep that apparatus tied to the floor. And so, yes, there is no room for creativity. There is no room for failure,
Mm-hmm.
but there is room for knowing kind of which things are likely to cause a problem and which things are not. And to not be so nitpicky over the things that are not.
As you're talking about this, I was thinking about the things that generally could have creative elements applied to them that normally would seem mundane. And I wonder if when you're facing tasks on your list, maybe they're routine, maybe they're not, maybe they're just something that you see and you're like, ugh. What if the first thought wasn't this is going to suck or this is going to be a problem or like just the immediate energy change around that versus how can I be creative with this? So like I'll give you an example. My son wants to earn some money this summer. He wants to get a job and he's just turned 15 actually as of this recording. Yesterday I now have a 15-year-old son.
Happy birthday to him.
Thank you. But what's funny is I feel older than I turned 51 since our last recording, right? So I actually feel older because of his birthday, not because of mine.
Yours, yes. That's the way it's supposed to work. But imagine having an almost 18-year-old who's someone who's 6 months away from her 18th birthday. Oh my gosh. It's like, how did I end up with a kid this old? And then I remember that I have 2 kids who are in their 30s.
Yes. So, and I also have a 20-year-old. So I'm like, I mean, we're 15 is the last gasp. But anyway, so one of the things that ended up happening is there's this service called We Sponsored. And if they basically will give you money if you take photos and do video and all that stuff. And I happen to be a member. I've never really used it, but I'm like, okay, look, if you can't get a job at 14 going on 15, what if we just did this? Like some of these pay $15, whatever. And he said, it just seems like a lot of work for $15. To which I said, so there you go. So I there's 2 lessons that are going to be learned there. Number one, once he gets a part-time job or after-school job at a place like McDonald's or something like that, he'll be like, oh man, I really wish that I could just do that. So because you do it on your own time, on your own schedule, whatever. So he hasn't experienced that yet. So he doesn't know even for like to take 3 photos and edit one short 45-second video to get $15 for you don't even have to leave your house. Is something that he hasn't quite grasped yet, or maybe
here I am thinking, how am I going to sign up for this?
Well, yeah, that's just so what I said to him was, I said, okay, look, and this is what happened. He's done 2 of them now with me. So I said, like, this is where it's a mundane task, but you're going to get free product out of it, which you can either keep or you can't sell it, but you can give it to somebody. Secondly, the effort in terms of within a certain time frame, the time frame is wide. Like you have about a week or 2 to do it. So it's not like you have to show up that day and get it done. Which, by the way, I've
Mhm.
experienced with like podcast advertising when I was,
Mhm.
previous podcast advertising. Sometimes I get an ad like, we need that for tomorrow. And I'm like, but I need more time. Like, no, you don't have more time. And
Mhm.
that, so
Mhm.
so when those things happen, when either the pressure of performing and you don't want to necessarily do it, or you face that friction, or it's mundane. What if the switch, which is what I try to get him to do, which was like, what if you were just more creative about it? Like, what if you thought
Mm.
about it from a more creative angle? Because all this
Mhm.
thing says is take some photos, edit a video. Like, what if you came up with a plan for the video for me and
Mhm.
said, like,
Mhm.
here, like, this is shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, shot 4, and each is 10 seconds, and that's what you have to do. Like, what if you did it that way? And he's like, yeah, like, so I wonder if more of us looked at a task not with this, with more of a, okay, how can I make this more enjoyable? That's applying creativity when you don't necessarily think that it is applying
Mhm.
creativity. Right? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also it is, you know, structuring, structuring the task in a creative way,
Right.
right? Coming up with a creative solution to get the task done. I've said it before on the podcast. One of the main thing my favorite thing about rigging, one of my favorite things. I don't know if it's the favorite thing, but one of my favorite things is the fact that what we are doing is choreography. The only
Right.
difference is that instead of dance moves, we're having to come up with how equipment gets moved and secured and placed and set, um, in concert with what's going on the stage.
You could argue it's
And
production design.
it
It's
definitely is
production design.
because right, and the artistic staff is designing where things happen based on what we are telling them of, oh, this piece of equipment has to come from over here because there's only one place we can store it, and that's where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to cross the stage here. And then we have to set these points, and then these are the dead ends, these are the live ends. We have to set the dead ends, and we have to set the live ends. And so if you have a scene going on over here,
Mm-hmm.
you can keep this area dark, and then we can do our work over in this area, and then you transfer to a scene over here, and now you can switch the lights, and now we can switch our work from this area to that area,
Yep.
right?
Yep. The art
So
direction plus the production design creates a really incredibly creative show.
right, exactly, and that's the creative part of the rigging and what we do is coming up with, wow, how are we going to take this giant piece of equipment and get it set up, and with the audience thinking it just appeared there by magic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is how we're
Yep.
going to redirect your attention wherever we want it.
Yep.
And you're not going to see any of this happen because you're going to be paying attention to something else.
When you read Rick Rubin's book, because you've read it, right? Like bits and
Yes,
pieces. Yeah, I
yes,
mean, it's not one that
yes.
I don't think it's one that you necessarily go and sit through in one sitting, but it's one that I've returned
Oh,
to a few times, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I read it straight. It was one of those. This is the book I'm reading right now and reading
Yeah.
through it.
I think that if somebody really wants to explore the kind of the intersection of where creativity and just living, which is really,
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, like you are in a state of productiveness as much as you can be throughout life, right? You're
Hmm.
you're you're, you're
Hmm.
making things, you've got purpose, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
book acts as, to me at least, I mean, first off, you have to look who it's coming from with
Hmm.
I mean, so there's most people, like, when you've ever heard about Rick Rubin, like, he doesn't play an instrument. He doesn't
No,
do that. He just knows what he likes. He's a
he.
tastemaker.
Yeah, yeah, he knows what he likes to hear. He is
Yeah.
not a musician. He is not a um he doesn't have a band. He's always been an enthusiast.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about him.
Yeah.
So there are many producers out there that could just jump in and play any of the instruments in any of the band.
He he
He's
he
not one of those
he
guys.
literally looks like to me like it's that it's like a guy that is a child. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
childlike
Mhm.
wonder. Like everything he
Mhm.
approaches with, because even when you see him talk, he's got a gentle, like he's not. It's
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
he's physically aged and he's gotten the wisdom and stuff, but that childlike creative, and you can
Mhm.
see it. Like if you've ever seen him in a documentary setting or what have you, you just see
Mhm.
his eyes light up when this kind of stuff happens. And it's
Mhm.
like not everybody can be like that all the time. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of Rick Rubins out there. But if you
Right.
read that book, and I highly recommend, like there's several books out there. There's The Creative Act, A Way of Being. There
Mhm.
is
War of Art.
War of Art, Making Ideas Happen by Scott Belsky is another great one.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's so many, but they all
Oh,
if you Twyla's
Twyla
Arts, The
Tharp's The
Creative Habit.
Creative Habit. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That one just hit me like a pile of bricks. That's one that I come back to all the time.
I would
I read it like 10 years ago or something like that, 15, and I think about it all the time.
I think you get to a point, and for the listeners out there, that you can only read so many productivity books. And here I am,
Mhm.
an author of one, of many, but
Of several.
one that just is fairly recent. I'm like, if someone was
Yes,
to say,
it just came out by it that you're, no. Yeah.
but I was going to say, like, if you look at it from that vantage point of you've read a lot of those, I mean, you're going to get a lot of ideas out of those. But I would argue
Mhm.
that if you feel like you've hit a wall with that kind of stuff, and I mean, because you
Mhm.
could be very overwhelmed with all those tactics, as you and I both know. Reading a book about creativity, that's where you can take some of the things you've already learned from those books and apply it to the creative aspect, and vice versa, the creative aspect to that. I think if you're stop reading, or at least take a break, or have like some kind of, back and forth or a volley between those kind of books, because I think we get caught up in, okay, well, I'm going to read 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman, which I think is a fantastic book and it's definitely worth reading. And I'm going to read Getting Things Done. I'm going to read Building a Second Brain. I'm going to read The Productivity Diet. You're going to be filled with so many things, that all of these tactics and ways of approaching this stuff. But when you read books that with creativity for front and center, you can then take that content that you've gleaned from those other books and go, okay, well, oh, here's how it unlocks something. And I think that you're missing
Well,
out if you
sure.
don't.
Sure, and here's the secret sauce. I literally just wrote this and posted this to one of my sites the other day,
Mm-hmm.
um, about the fact. Here's the truth about most of these books, and including all of the great ones that we've mentioned. You can probably get as much as you need out of those books by reading the introduction and the
Mm-hmm.
introduction alone, and put it down.
Yeah.
Like everything the lesson is usually like, covered. The basics of the concept that is trying to be discussed is generally covered in a succinct way in the introduction, and it's all you need. I just read one. It's called The 12-Hour Walk.
Okay.
The 12-Hour Walk is written by Colin O'Malley. No, Colin. I'm getting the name
We'll
messed
put a
up.
link in the
We'll
show
we'll, we'll
notes.
link to the show notes. But here's what you need to know about the 12-Hour Walk. Are you ready?
Sure.
You don't even need to read the introduction. In fact, you can just go to Amazon and read the description, because right there in the description is everything you need to know about the book, everything that's in the book, and everything the book is going to tell you to do, which is the 12-Hour Walk asks you to invest one day in yourself by walking alone, unplugging, listening to the voice within, and rewriting the limiting beliefs etched into your psyche. You can break free of the patterns holding you back and learn how to cultivate a possible mindset, an empowered way of thinking that unlocks a life of limitless possibilities. The reward being the hero of your own destiny. That's it. That that little
Mm-hmm.
paragraph in the description, posted right there on Amazon, just saved you from having to read the entire book. It's simple. Go for a walk, an all-day walk. Leave your phone at home. Maybe bring a pen and a notebook to capture some of the thoughts that come up.
That said, it harkens, I'm not going to disagree with you, because believe me, my book's on Blinkist, and I've had a lot of people read the blinks of my books. So Blinkist is like basically a Cliff's Notes or Cole's Notes version, depending on where you're from.
Yeah,
But I would also say that it brings to mind the Buddhist story of the businessman and the Buddha, or the monk, I think the Buddhist monk, where he said, I'm really stressed out, I'm overwhelmed. The business person saying this to the monk, and the monk says, well, you need to meditate for, at least 5 minutes a day. And then the businessman goes, I don't have time for that. And he goes, well, then you need to meditate for 20 minutes a day. Right.
Yeah.
So to your point, the intro or the afterword, like Austin Kleon's another great example of a book we didn't even touch on for creativity. All of his books are related to that. Like Steal Like an Artist is a fantastic book. Especially
they're all fantastic.
The afterword would be what you could read in that one, because he comes back with the 10th anniversary talking about that. But I would say that that book you mentioned, The 12-Hour Walk, the intro can get you into that mindset. But if you find slipping, that's when you need to pick up the book, because there's an immersive element.
Sure.
To it, right?
Sure.
So, but it's to me, and correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is you don't need to go deep to get started. Like, it just needs to be right. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and also the other, here's something else I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's what you know about the author of that book. The author of that book is an adventurer. He has summited like all the 7 summits, like every major summit on every continent, twice. He has taken a rowboat across the Drake Passage.
Right.
He was the first person to do an unassisted solo walk dragging a 392-pound sled across Antarctica. This is what you need to know about him, okay?
Yeah.
He's not you. He is not you. Secondly, this revelation about this life-changing thing happened to him during the pandemic.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so time and space, speaking of which.
Right. Exactly. He was at home. He was bored, because this guy is an adrenaline junkie. He couldn't go on some wild, massive expedition because COVID. He couldn't travel the globe and climb summits because COVID. What could he do? He was stuck at home, and not knowing what to do, he left the house and just walked.
Yep.
All day long. And then he came back home and said, I got more out of that walk when I was bored in the middle of the pandemic than I have in so many other of these adventure things where I am hyper focused on the chase of the goal, of the this, of the that, but just walking aimlessly, phone free, just unlocks something in me, and I know it can unlock something in you. Yeah, it might, but you're not an adrenaline junkie adventurer. Who has 12 hours to spend walking around waiting for the muse to talk to him. Or you get what I'm saying, right?
No,
all of these things come in context. You have to put them in context, and you have to decide if they apply to you. Oliver Burkeman's 4,000 Weeks is wonderful if you are a knowledge worker in a very particular type of job with a very particular type of mindset, and you are having a very, very particular types of problems with that. Not to say that there aren't literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of those people, God knows that they bought his book. But I read the book and I'm like, yeah, this book's not for me.
No, it's
And
the
I
book.
don't, and
Yeah,
I, and
yeah,
I don't have the life of the person who this book is for.
right.
And therefore, while I'm sure that there's some great stuff in here, none of it applies to me. Same thing with Cal Newport's deep productivity,
So
right?
slow productivity, you mean?
Slow productivity,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I love Cal. I know Cal. You
yep,
know Cal.
yep.
You know, he's a fantastic guy. He has a prestigious job in a university where to him having mountains of space and time to think is highly important to his work.
Hmm.
And his view is that there are other people for whom having the time and space for to think would be highly important for their work. And that book is written for them. It is not written for me. I have all the time. I control my own time and space because I work for myself.
Yeah,
And the things that I do, the sorts of things I do have nothing to gain from that book. I love
yeah.
Cal. Very smart. You should read his book if you are that person, but if you're not, it's okay. It's
Hmm.
all right for that not to be the book for you. It's okay for these productivity books and these self-help books and these this is the secret to life in the universe books, of which you and I have both written,
Hmm.
are not the secret to your life and your universe.
Yeah,
Only you can know what that is. And and unfortunately, it may take kind of reading several of these things and not figuring it out to find the elements that tie things together enough for you in your head from having kind of encountered these things to go, oh, yeah, but you know what? Huh. Well, this all may not be for me, but this one thing is. The 12-hour walk, I may not be able to do a 12-hour walk, but huh? I, it might be worth walking more.
yeah,
Maybe I'm not having enough alone time. Maybe I'm not making enough space. Maybe I'm not leaving my phone home and just going out and having some time to think. I can take that away.
yeah. It's funny. The same thing happened this week when for my Time Crafting Trust community, the book for July was Steal Like an Artist. And at the end,
Mhm.
Austin asks, what are you going to do? And there's a list of things. And I think one of the first things on the list might be the first thing is take a walk. And
Mhm.
I incorporate a walk into my stuff. But there's been days where I haven't done it. And you know what happens? The days I don't do it,
Hmm.
the creative juices don't get flowing as well. I don't feel
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
many things, but, um,
You
we'll wrap,
notice the effect.
yeah, we'll wrap things up here because next time, and this is actually a nice dovetail. What you were talking about was the idea of connection. So we're going to talk about
Mhm.
connection to deepening meaningful relationships with others, but also with yourself. I think that's a
Oh,
key
yeah.
element too.
Well, and,
Um,
and that's what so many of these books are about.
yeah.
Ultimately, they're ultimately about discovering who you are.
Well, and at the end of the day, you are the only person you're going to live with for your
Mhm.
entire life. So you
Mhm.
might want to have a
Mhm. Every
strong
minute of the day.
might not want to have a strong connection there. Patrick, where can people pick up your book? Because you've got a book that says for you, but it may not be for them. We know who it's for, but it could be elements in it that are for them. Just like my book, The Productivity Diet. Every diet, every
Yes.
person's gonna be different. Where can people pick up the book and keep up with what you've got going on?
Oh, the best place to go is patrickrhone.com because that will give you a pointer to everywhere I am and everything I do, including my books, including this. And actually, you have just reminded me. I should be saying, I should also add to that the fact that I guest on this here podcast once a month. So put that as another place where people can find me. I haven't done that, and I am ashamed for just literally this moment, realizing that. Um,
Shame might be strong. You don't need to be. I mean,
oh
I
yeah.
can't get. You don't need to be. I mean, the great thing is these conversations. What I love about doing this in this series is it just creates a pattern breaks for people who regularly listen to the show. and just covering
Yes.
topics, which we haven't, which we don't necessarily get to do on every episode. Something I want to explore more, obviously. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
if you love the podcast and you want to hear more of this, as well as what else I've got going on, again, just hit the subscribe button, rate, review the show. Let us know what you want us to talk about too. That's something you can do on Spotify. You can have comments. YouTube, you can add comments. Of course, you can leave a rating review on Apple Podcasts, all those places. You want to keep up with me, of course, MikeVardy.com. And if you want to pick
Mhm.
up the book, The Productivity Diet, or any of my other stuff, or you want to at least pick them up so you can read the introduction, MikeVardy.com/lit. But again, I mentioned, and I don't think this is, I mean, we're not sponsoring it, but I mean, there are tools out there for you to get the quote key points of these kind of books. Blinkist is a great source. So if you're like, Mike,
Mhm.
I've got all these books that I want to read. If you've got a Blinkist membership, or you want to, you can go to Blinkist and you'll find my book there, as well as Cal's book, as well as Rick Rubin's book, as well as several others. It's not necessarily going to give you the depth, but it will give you the springboard, I would argue, to get
Sure.
going.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, Patrick, that's it for this month. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks.